Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Games Jobs live stream. I'm Harry Petch, the community and content manager for Games Jobs Live, and today we are back once again with another. Click the button. There you go. Jobs board highlights episode. Which if you're new to the series, this is a series where we take a look at a few different jobs that are on our Games Jobs Live jobs board, which you can find on the jobs board ticking down below. We take a look at a few different selection of jobs from our jobs board, which you can check out, and trying to sort of demystify or take a look at some of the different job specs and see if there's anything interesting we can figure out from them, essentially. But as you probably know, I'm not an artist. I'm a designer. And so, of course, I wanted to get some nice bit of help with this episode. So we got a guest for today, and our guest for today is the ever fantastic. If you're from around the Dundee area, you'll know him. Fergus Coyne. Hello, Fergus.
Hello.
How
Oh,
are you doing?
I'm doing good, Harry. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Yeah, it's been a busy day today, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's been a busy
for
day.
sure.
Has it been busy for you as well?
Absolutely. I mean, every day is busy, busy for me. But I very much appreciate being invited on because it's so rare that I ever get to talk about art stuff. It's usually mostly just events or some other things. But I do art things. I'm an artist, I think. So
Yes, of course. Yeah, Fergus, you are a general artist at Team
yes,
Terrible,
yep, that's
and
right. Um,
also you do a lot of stuff like events as well.
yeah.
Could
Well,
you
to give you
talk
the
us through,
Yeah,
like a
to give
bit
you
of
the rundown on where I am, as you said, I'm general artist on the Baby in Yellow at Team Terrible. So general artist is relatively almost every kind of art that needs being done. I mainly focus on 3D environment work. There has been some other stuff, 2D work and other things that can't talk about, but they fall it falls over quite a range of disciplines of art because it's a small indie studio. Obviously, in indie studios, you have to wear a lot of hats, and general artist fits that studio perfectly. And it's also really fun for me because I get to work on something one week and then work on something different another week. It's very entertaining. But yeah, outside that, as you said, I also am an events coordinator for Hub World Scotland. We're an open community network for the Scottish games industry, and we do an event every month. And the next event is next Friday in Dundee. Come hang out. um,
fantastic?
but yeah, art is my day job, is my 9 to 5, and I've been an artist for about 3.5 years. But I mean, you can tell them as much as like our conversations beforehand, where I don't really feel like an artist as much doing this for 3.5 years. And you introduced me there as an artist. I'm like, that's not me. What? Yeah. It definitely it feels it feels odd to say that. But yeah, I've been working in art for a while. I used to work before Team Turbo. I worked at an art company Dundee called Ninja Kiwi. We worked on the Bloons Tower Defense series and another series. Yeah, it's been launched now. The Zombie Assault series that came out. Well, it's coming out soon. That was my first job out of university, and at uni, I actually studied game design for four years. I was 2 in college and 3 in uni. But during game design production, they were basically saying, "Oh yeah, design's very hard to get into, and you're likely not going to make it. So you might as well learn another skill." So I learned art, and then went into an art job for that. So I still got a bit of that like designer brain in me, and it just usually results in me annoying a lot of people in the office by like, actually, can we do this? Oh, yeah, yeah. But other than that, yeah, I'm artist day to day. Yeah, that's my story.
Yeah, I suppose it's also that having all those different hats that you
Hmm.
can, having all those different hats that you can wear, like doing, something like game design and production as well, like in doing like game art and generalist art, that kind of thing. Does the game design and production, having a bit of an oversight into all the bits of the pipeline in game development, do you think that definitely helps you out in some ways, or
Absolutely. I think it does help me, especially in my role, for having like a small, again, very small game design background is purely because in our team as it is, there's some workflows that happen where essentially when it comes to me designing an environment, we basically get assigned all of our tasks, and I'll get thrown like a room. I'll just get like, all right, Fergus, you just do this room, and then I'll get thrown to me, and then I get kind of like, I get told the objectives of this area, of this environment, like what the player flow is, what we want to do, and then otherwise it's kind of, it's been in the past, there's been some tasks that have been completely up to me, and I think that design stuff has helped in the past to be like, oh, this is how this room should be laid out quite a bit, and at least it adds an extra level of thought for like, you know, player flow, as I said. I do think it helps, and especially quite good to know other areas of disciplines within work, especially in indie studio, just to be more aware of your colleagues and what their responsibilities are as well, and to know what's technically possible. But I kind of just, yeah, I like to think of like design as like, oh yeah, I know design or whatever, but no, I like just butting in and be like, oh, we did this, we did this.
Yeah, definitely. I think like there's a lot of value to be had if you do understand, like if you're able to articulate, I suppose like articulating and stuff like, you know, an application or an interview, that you do understand all of these different areas of design or the different areas of the process. That kind of stuff really does go to help, because there can be like quite a problem between, I mean, it's the classic, like, you know, the artists versus the programmers being so like, you know, if they end up being disconnected from each other, it can cause a whole lot of issues.
Yeah. For sure. I do think there's like, on the flip side of that is, you kind of as well, there's been plenty of working environments where you kind of need to, I guess indie studios are quite bad for that, because it's such like a shared and open space where it feels like everyone can have input on quite a lot of things. At the end of the day, sometimes you just got to know your role and know what you're good at and focus on your role stuff, because like it's definitely happened in like game jams and other projects in the past where you get into the whole loop of design by committee, and sometimes that's not the best option. It always depends on the task, but it's good more to be aware of other people's roles, but focus on your stuff first. Get your stuff down to T and be at a high skill level for that. I'd say is always the goal first.
Fabulous. Awesome. I think generally with that, wait, let's take a look at some of the jobs, I think.
Let's get a job. Let's apply for jobs.
Yeah, we're gonna look at some job applications.
Let's get some jobs. Get some money.
Oh, no, I removed you. Yes. So okay, so this one's gonna work a little bit differently to some of the past ones, because usually I go, you know, we've got like the two different disciplines. Even on the thumbnail, there's two different disciplines. But like, you know, Fergus, you're a general artist as well, and there seems to be like three kind of almost subcategories within the major discipline of game art. You've got like the generalist art, which is like a combination of the 2D, 3D. Then you've got like more like 2D specialists and like sort of more 3D kind of focused roles. So I think we're going to take
we can get more granular than that if you'd like. We can throw in tech art, VFX, all this other sort of work into it. It always depends on the size of the studio, because when it gets to like larger studios, you get more granular set of artworks, like character art as a specific job, which basically doesn't exist in indie studios, because like it's always based on the workload needed for the project, and you're only going to have like, depending on the game obviously, but you're going to have like a couple of characters per game. You're going to have a lot of environment, a lot of props per game. So
absolutely. So yeah, I suppose like so there's like some sort of caveats with this one. Definitely, art is so big, and that you know, I think that's especially a good point to immediately bring up on applying for stuff with like, you know, indie or sort of like AA is going to be very different to applying with like sort of AAA. Like specialist stuff.
It's quite unfortunate, because like art, I mean, this is only my experience of only knowing applying for art jobs in the past, but art is, because it's such like a subjective thing. I say subjective in the sense of like different studios are looking for different needs from artists, because obviously not only does like your skill matter, but like art style matters as well. So when you're applying to, you know, AAA jobs, you need your portfolio and quality of work to be AAA level. And then there's different sides of the coin where it's like if you're going for like somewhere, the only thing comes to mind is like Pixar. You're going for animated, wild, stylized characters and things. You have to know the shape language and how to make stylized characters work. Like they're completely different skill sets. So there's like, it is a bit of like, you need to know the tech side of the things, and then the, like, I guess theory is also the word of the style of art that you're going for. So yeah, I get to say that with like hands up, saying I'm a general artist. So I do what's given to me.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I guess in that case, yeah. Like, we'll start off with a couple of things from some general art roles.
Yeah,
I think.
absolutely.
Yeah. First one I want to quick look at, because just immediately sort of, the casually filtered by art, see what kind of stuff we see here. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff like, technical artist, environment art, and again, some, 2D and stuff here. There's immediately a nice generalist one from Blowfish over here. So let's take a look at the website themselves. So looking at just this generalist artist job spec in general, seems to be that looking at the description, sort of specifically working a lot, closely with the 3D department. Okay, so it probably seems like a skew more towards 3D. However, it says in terms of some of the responsibilities and requirements, they do keep quite highlighting a lot of these. They keep highlighting 2D and 3D skills as a main thing. I suppose, Fergus, one thing which I'm wondering, in terms of like stuff like portfolios and like putting things in for these kind of applications where you need to like do a balance, how do you find, because like curating a portfolio is always a thing that people talk about. Like how do you kind of like find that sort of balance between the 2D 3D aspect if you're trying to like, put things out for stuff like this?
That's absolutely a great question, and not one I think I'm equipped to answer for, because what I was implying with artists being subjective, there is also, because it's such a huge discipline with a whole bunch of different subcategories in it, there's a lot of different people that say, oh, your portfolio should be like this, should be like this, and yeah, like there's a lot of like contradicting things out there. I think always the main thing that cuts through is always quality over quantity. Is having like a much smaller but much more high quality portfolio is much better than having 30 pages of absolute rubbish. I do think this is definitely, as a journalist, this is quite difficult for what the responsibilities that they're shown on here, because in my experience, journalists for games are always, no matter what, will always include 3D. If they're going to ask for 2D stuff, it's usually led by 2D. I think 2D stuff is always like a little bit of the icing on the top. And I do think there's a lot of crossover with this stuff, because like when you're doing 3D, you obviously need your texture and things. And depending on your texture and style, 2D work will come into the fold of that for sure. So with journaling stuff, I always say prioritize 3D stuff, but like don't forget 2D things. I'm trying to go through the different actual on my side of things.
Yeah, looking through some of these, like, the responsibilities, again, it seems like some of the elements of these 2Ds might be not only just some in-game assets, but largely, again, the kind of covering some graphics design side of it with like, logo symbols or like UI potentially. Talking about you being able to do lighting, it doesn't give like much, doesn't give much of an indication of, I mean, maybe we could even check it out if I take a quick look at Blowfish's games on the sides here.
I absolutely love the technical jargon that's thrown into some of these things, because the second point here is illustrate amazing high-resolution 2D images to inform the creation of in-game assets for marketing purposes. That's concept art. That's just, you should just say concept art and marketing art. You don't need to say all that. I think in this scenario, definitely 3D is their go-to, because if they're, as much as marketing assets are very valuable, concept art in general it doesn't have to be the highest quality. It just needs to communicate the essential like key elements of whatever you're trying to design. So I definitely say 3D is more important for this, because I mean, I've done concept art at my work, and I cannot draw. I'm absolutely horrible at 2D stuff. I've definitely been getting better at it over this past year, but it was never really something I tackled before. So yeah, it absolutely depends. But yeah, you're right. You're saying you were going to look up the games that they're working on.
Like I just took a quick look at some of the stuff, and especially they're coming soon sort of pages. There's like a there was a little video that was playing. Yeah, like awesome screenshots here. Again, we've got some ones that are sort of that mix of slightly realistic, sort of kind of slightly stylized sort of looks in sort of Unreal Engine.
Mhm.
So yeah, it definitely seems like, if you've got those portfolios that kind of like, again, lean more towards those, something that ends up kind of matching their sort of art styles of like some pre-release screenshots they've put up. I think that kind of thing can really sort of help here.
It's hard to, because again, generalists is such a wide role, and it is hard to tell people what they should put on their portfolios for things like this. But I think absolutely one of the must for things is to have some sort of environment in your portfolio. At least, again, I need to preface this by saying this is a completely personal opinion, and I like it's personal opinion. I've only ever applied for one job, and I got, well, I've only ever got one job that I've applied for many of them, and some of this might contradict my own process into the industry, but there is so many other things outside of like your portfolio and things that do contribute to getting a job. So I'll say right now, I enjoy an environment and a portfolio purely for the fact that what it demonstrates is a bunch of different skills all in one dense package. And I'm not talking about like a huge environment. We're talking about like a room, just a single room, because it has so much prop work in it. And it also, if you render it in a game engine, you also run into, optimizing the assets, lighting them as well is also a key thing. And you're tackling a whole bunch of different things. And if you want to be like spicy, you can throw in some narrative elements to this as well. I think environments are such like you can pack a lot into them. Yeah, you can pack a lot into them. Because I think like it's always great, again, depending on the job you're going for, when you have like a single high quality prop asset, like a hero asset, like say it's like a gun or a big weapon or things. I think that's definitely great. And it definitely shows your like detail and focus. But like environments are also great for having a lot of things. But then again, I it's a personal thing again of like I prefer to keep scope small for personal projects and portfolio projects, because there's nothing worse than like spending months on a singular project. Because like I don't know if you get this, Harry, as well, but like any sort of creative idea you have, you get bored of it within like within a few weeks. And then the fact like once it goes past that point and you have to keep coming back to this huge environment, you say it's like a small dense thing, show your style, show your skill, and show all the different disciplines that you cover, I think is always a great addition to a portfolio.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
actually
no, I can relate to that. I can relate to that very much so,
yeah,
because I'm very game jam kind of guy.
yeah, absolutely. I'm actually getting the fear now because I realize my portfolio is public and people see it. But that portfolio is like 2 years old, and yeah, rubbish. All the stuff on there. It's crazy that everyone is always better than their portfolio anyway, just purely from the time sink.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, just taking a quick look at some more of these other ones again, trying to look at some jargon that is, I guess, interesting to sort of interesting or capital I interesting.
Mhm.
Also probably also like worth obviously like mentioning all of the stuff that we're pretty much mentioning are mostly just sort of coming from, again, our opinions and our sort of like understanding of where we are in the games industry, that kind of thing. Like, it's really useful if you find anything useful from this. Do take hoping that kind of stuff can like help you figure out what you want to do with your portfolio. But don't worry if your opinion on this kind of stuff kind of like differs to ours, because there's a million artists who'll say a million like different things.
I definitely
Yeah.
like. I only say that for the fear that senior artists and other mid-level artists are looking at me and like, oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that, because again, like everyone's route into this industry is just a little bit different. and there's different things that help them succeed. But definitely, the most important thing is showing your skill.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, like, honestly, with like a lot of these like knowledge, skills, and abilities, reading through it, it's just, yeah, they're really just kind of wording multiple times, essentially, know how to do the production like pipeline,
Mhm.
and have good art skills, but kind of have said in like multiple different fancy ways, it seems, kind of here.
I do, yeah. The strong 2D illustration skills, like obviously, it sound like they're looking for a bit of. I think again, it's one of those things that's just like general artists are good if they're able to tackle everything you can throw at them. And obviously, you'd rather have one person on a team that can do 3D and 2D rather than two people on it. Like that's purely from like a business point of view, like expenses wise. So they're trying to like jack of all trades it, and that's why as another thing of like why I say environments are really good for portfolios is because you can have things in the world that are made for like you have elements in the world that incorporate 2D art as well. Like you could literally just have like a painting on the wall and then you just paint the painting as texture and include that in there as well. But yeah, it seems like they are looking for an extra, just a little bit of showcase of 2D work. I think point number 3 here is very important as well. That's a very key one.
One?
Yep.
Yes.
Must be flexible to take criticism and iterate until the final game asset is just right. And the fact that they've put that there kind of shows that they've had beef in the past with a former artist. But I'm not joking. That is one of the most important things to understand as an artist, especially as a junior, where you will join a team, especially if you're working with mid-levels and seniors and things. And it's like there is a process of reviewing your work and things. You need to be accepting of feedback, absolutely. Because there is just a case where sometimes like your work just might not be good enough to match game assets, like the final game assets, and it's never anything personal. It's never personal. It's just about like improving the quality of work over time. Be open to taking feedback. And I know, especially in like an indie studio, people can get quite protective over their work and things. But at the end of the day, you're making the game as a team, especially if you're with other artists. It's hard to like. There's sometimes you will make things, like this is amazing, and then people will be like, no, it needs a lot more work, or I don't like it, or things like this. You just need to be open to ideas
at that point.
Yeah, I remember in the past project, I made something I really liked and I was really proud of, but it was outside of the art style of our game, and it didn't get in. And I was quite upset about that at the time. But like, it makes absolute sense because there's no point in having a game at the end where you're all like doing stickman characters and then there's a Renaissance painting or something in the background. I think that's quite an important one.
Yeah. Gosh, I think we could definitely talk about this, just this one. We could definitely talk about this one job posting for ages. I think I'm gonna also like take a quick peek at one of some of the other ones that are here as well. I saw earlier there was an interesting art role. Wally. Here we are.
I had a friend that used to work for them.
Awesome. Quali game art role. Let's take a quick look. Oh, that's taking you straight to
the supply. Yeah,
that's going a bit extreme. Let's take a quick look at the open positions page. Sometimes I've got to do this again. Bit of a work in progress. Here we are. So they're looking at a game artist, specifically in the hybrid casual mobile games team as well. Again, that means that kind of puts a lot of good context in, wanting optimizations, that kind of jazz. And here we go. We've got let's take a quick breeze through some of this. Yep, so it'll be with the Leamington Spa team. They've already mentioned it's like looking for mobile games, and as a games artist, they're looking for, again, 2D and 3D artwork, high quality visual style, working with, again, lead artists, designers, developers to create highly successful free to play games, and that jazz. Let's take a quick look at, again, some of these responsibilities. Yeah, Fergus, do feel free to call out if you see anything here that is like kind of different almost.
I know it's the same. Yeah,
It's pretty much going to be the same, I think.
General artists are kind of, it's one of those roles where it's just like everything. You do everything, and they're trying to cover the broad range of subjects that
it's like the game design role when you got like a lot of the game design jobs we've seen have a lot of like similar kind of like sort of hats to each other. It's like the games design role for art.
What's nice about this role, or maybe I read a thing wrong.
Where did you see it? I can find it.
I'm reading it on my end as well. But I think this one, research industry tech trends and emerging technologies to enhance game visuals, and I think it was listed somewhere. Maybe it was in the past role of being passionate. I think it was.
There's definitely mention about passion in the Blowfish role. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of these things that companies put into. Obviously, you want your artists to always improve over time, and you can kind of only improve by challenging yourself and keeping up to date with new skills and new technologies as well. I think it's one of those things where companies always look for passion as well, because I think passion is quite an important thing, because passion is like you care about a project, and once you care about something, that person wants to do the best that they can. Is essentially what they're looking for. When someone says passion, it's like this person will care about their job and want to do it the best. So it's always a benefit when someone's passionate about their work, and they care a lot about it. And I know I'm a very passionate person, so it's definitely helped out.
Yeah, that stuff can obviously, you can like that. A lot of that stuff comes through on stuff like the cover letter from a lot of things that I've heard. A lot of times they do want to see a cover letter, and a good opportunity to get that passion across, I guess.
That actually, no, you're absolutely right, because that caught me out when I was applying when I was in high school, and I was applying to Abertay to get into their through the UCAS form or something, and I wrote my cover letter for there, and my supervisor at high school read it, and he was like, "This is so weird. This is so like honest and heartfelt." And I was just like, please let me in, please, please, please. So definitely that's a good place for it to come through. Absolutely.
Obviously, maybe like don't write your cover letter as "please let me in, please."
No,
Probably if you're applying for a job.
Yeah, it worked for me. Just please, please, I'll love you. I'll be your best friend.
I guess that goes to show, networking obviously also an important aspect. That's a whole other discussion.
Back to on this role, responsibilities. It says produce and iterate on art assets suitable for prototyping and full production. Again, this is one of those things that just like I think this is text filler. When you're working on art assets, there's the workflow of like blocking out process and iterating on them anyway to get things done. I think that's just you can expect all of this.
One that was I think particularly interesting in the responsibilities down here is archive and organize art assets for efficient reuse. And I'm wondering, like, is that essentially like name your files correctly?
Oh my God, Harry! You think that'd be obvious, but no. There's so many artists, me included, that just don't organize their workspace. So they have to write that down. And it's one of those things. It's definitely such an interesting thing for like when you're told something in uni about like this is how industry is working. This is the industry workflows. This is what every company does, and then you join the company and see for yourself that no, they absolutely don't. There is a whole bunch of examples of like. But games are just made by like people, and when they graduate or they form companies, they form it off of their best experience, and then there's extra things and the like extra policies, extra ideas in the industry that come up and then get taught at a new level, and then you come through. It's basically they just fall for the cracks. But a way to say that is it's been almost anytime I've asked the question of like I'm working on an art asset. What is the poly count budget for this art asset? Like how high detail wise can it be? How much will we allow this asset to be? And every time I've asked this question over the 3.5 years, I'm always told the same answer of like, oh, don't worry about that. We don't bother with poly count budgets. Just make the asset. and then I'll make the asset and I'll put it in, and they come back and say, no, that's too high poly, please reduce it. And it's always like a thing based off just experience of like, what they know what they're doing, but it's kind of hard to communicate this. And you kind of figure out for yourself over time what's allowable. And it's that different projects need different things as well.
And I suppose that's also interesting, again, even though this is definitely like, hybrid, mobile games, they don't explicitly point out, be about, poly budgets or, keeping things to correct resolution. But I'd assume that being able to showcase you have at least like a conscious awareness of that.
Yes, absolutely. Include your wireframes and your hero assets, include all of them. You can even limit yourself to some things. I know there was one project. It was one of these. I think it was Sketchfab challenges that was like make a guy under like 250 polys or tries even. And that was fun, and I really liked them. I put them up in my portfolio for a little bit. But yeah, show your wireframes on your portfolio for sure, and your understanding. I was looking for the requirements again to this, where it shows industry standard tools, Photoshop, Illustrator, Blender, Maya, blah blah blah. This is obvious, but just in case there's someone listening who isn't aware of this or thinks it's okay, there's so many free tools out there.
Yes,
please use them. They're absolutely industry standard. Like again, Maya, very expensive, and through university, that's what I was taught. When I got my first job, that was in Blender, and I had to basically relearn 3D in a different language. Blender is absolutely standard and it's free. Same goes for all, game engine, Unreal, Unity as well. It's something, again, this is one of those things that comes down to depending on the studio, because you joining a company, you will, if you don't know the software, there's going to be an extra bit of time that you will need to go through to learn that software. And for companies that know this, will be like absolutely understandable, especially if you're coming in a junior. They know that you're not familiar with these softwares. But when it gets to like higher level jobs, and they're looking for someone with this knowledge, experience of this software, sometimes there's just no way around it. Where if there's two candidates and one knows it and one doesn't, that is a point in the direction.
Yeah, so those are a couple of generalist roles, and I'm sort of interested to see. I think let's just kind of like, because we kind of already focused on 3D.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at some more 2D art specific roles, I think. So let me take a quick look, because got this one. I think let's take a look at another one from Australia, the Panda Arcade one. If we pop on the website over here, because this one's. They're keeping it nice. They kept Panda Arcade. They've kept it nice and simple, very nice and simple and honest with what they're basically looking for. In terms of some of the responsibilities, again, this one they seem like as a 2D artist, and I don't know if you've ever like looked at specifically like 2D artists or 3D artist roles, specifically. But like this one seems to be very much of that blend of wanting 2D artists who can also be our like main graphics designer, because again they're looking for logos, icons, UI as a particular big focus.
The description of this absolutely falls into graphic designer, and it's 2D art / graphic design, which makes absolute sense. But like logos and UI are more structured graphic design for sure. And I used to do before all this work, I used to work in video editing, and I'd done plenty of graphic design during that. So being familiar with 2D stuff and graphic stuff is within my wheelhouse as well. Interestingly, don't list, I guess, I was going to say software, but it says works with the Adobe Creative Suite.
Yeah, the Adobe Creative Suite, but they've not really gone much more in depth into. They've not really got much more in depth into it.
No, that's. I think that's absolutely fine. You know what you're looking for. It's Photoshop, Illustrator. I think the next one is like motion graphics and video editing is interesting. This is not. This is a graphic design role. I don't see any much 2D work going in here. At least they would not.
Outside of experience working with Unity, but they've not really sort of put a lot of stuff that talks about either character or environment art. I think for these kind of roles, do you think if it's a sort of 2D art role and then not looking for a specific generalist, you'd probably assume in the responsibilities, if it was character art, environment art, they sort of meant, can do character art, can do environment art, that kind of thing.
I appreciate that this one doesn't seem like it's been written with AI though. This is just clearly some
Yeah,
stuck up head who's just like, we need to get a graphic designer role out there. Just what do we want?
brilliant.
It's pretty much
Yeah,
to the point.
yeah, definitely. Awesome. Honestly, I don't think there's too much more to say there because again, we've covered a lot
No,
of this, and again, there's a lot of similar stuff here as previously. Um, wow, it's probably
crazy.
record time looking at a job on this series. Then.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's
I went
we
off
can
on the
definitely
last one.
let's fit one of these other ones in there. There was a really interesting one. Oh, I'm trying to find them. There was one I took a look earlier. It's from like player 3. Oops. They seem to be hiring for quite a few little positions. So yeah, let's see. Let's take a look at player 3's one. This one again, they've got quite a lot of
Oh,
detailed
okay.
bullet points, but I already see 2D, and even in a sort of 2D artist role, there's mention of 3D. There's already mention of 3D assets, which I suppose is
Yeah.
interesting. But they're talking about working with low poly 3D and producing textures for 3D assets. So okay,
Which is
can
insane.
you get away? Can you get away with that?
I don't know. This was actually a question I got asked at my last talk at the university, where um, someone asked about if it's someone's job, like if you can break down the workload of like someone makes the model and someone else does the texture. I think that seems absolutely alien to me, but I'm sure it definitely happens in especially AAA studios when there's 500 people working on a project, especially when you got people that are just defined for material artists and things. You're not going to get this in like a 20-person studio. Like, you need to be able to do everything that you work on from start to finish. Yeah, this is an interesting role for sure.
Yeah, just in general, like yeah. So they're looking going straight up back to the top because I went straight to the
Yeah.
bottom immediately. Yeah, 2D artists, cross-platform projects. Although most of their projects and their project history definitely seems to be mobile focused,
Yep.
mobile and web HTML5 focused. Again, yeah, definitely a lot of 2D art that's happening here. And I am interested where the 3D art comes in. Seems like a couple of the projects lean into that.
Yeah, for sure. Again, this is one of the it is very much like this would be very nice too, as they say. It always depends on the company's thing of like whether or not this actually matters or not to them. When it's like the cherries on top, like, oh, if they could do this, that'd be good. But do they need that, or are they secretly looking for all of these extras as well, but just don't want to see it?
Yeah.
I definitely, when applying for these jobs, I'd definitely be focusing on the key requirements more than anything. Like, this is again cherries on top thing.
Yeah, definitely. And let's take a look at those like key roles again. Creator designer with an excellent attention to detail.
Mhm.
Again, I think that's quite standard. I think every job kind of says that in like games generally. Working with bitmap and vector-based graphics design. So yeah, I mean,
Yep, I can't do
like
that. I'm a bitmap boy. I can barely, I can't touch vectors for sure. I like
vectors
my
like Illustrator and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so actually, I use vector mask quite a lot in my 2D work, but that's all in Photoshop. I barely touch Illustrator. But again,
Yeah.
it's not. I've never needed to. It's not my job requirements. I've actually asked for it a couple of times. I mean, and it was like, oh, why? And I'm like, oh, for this one thing that per 6 months. And no, why would we do that? So I do all my stuff in Photoshop for sure. Producing
Yeah,
UI designs as well. That's
UI designs. Yes, I think that seems to be something that does fold into a lot of these 2D art jobs. Been like bit of UI as well as a treat.
Honestly, that is part and parcel.
I'd say like if you've with these kind of roles, I'd be interested if like the implication of experience with UI design implies having experience with UI and UX design, or if it's like they have more of the UX. I don't know if it is typically the case they already have like the UX sort of down. They just want it to like be in pretty boxes, or because inherently UI and UX is so inherently linked.
Yeah.
I guess it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where I think user experience is always great, but I think you're adding too many hats on to like a 2D role at that point. Where I think when especially when like leads put up these 2D roles, I think they just try to think of all the 2D things in their game, and UI is absolutely one of them.
That's a good point. That probably again definitely tells you all of the different aspects that they're thinking about as a studio when you're looking at this stuff.
Absolutely. You said a question earlier, and I forgot it.
No problem. There'll be more
never
questions.
Mind. Yeah,
there will be more questions. Of course,
you forgot as well.
I've also forgotten as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the ability to work within many different art styles, of course, define task requirements and deliver to deadlines. Yeah, this kind of stuff is all quite interesting. Oh, there we are. Hey, they've listed some specifics, some specific interesting like work that they're probably like looking to see. 2D character animation, background art, logo and brand design, and creating tile sets for games. I mean, at least it's quite honest, but they sort of ask for kind of everything. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. That is interesting because they are breaking their stuff down pretty granularly there. Like creating background art, I feel like shouldn't have to be said here. But I think the logo and brand design is also one of those things where it's like that is kind of like leading you a little bit into the social media marketing aspect as well, because like if you can do that, they might just put you on marketing for sure, where it's like, oh, we need to come up with like, you know, the product page, made some Steam assets and things. You can do logo design, brand design, do all that for the game as well.
Yeah, so I guess that's another thing to be aware of while you're applying for these ones. In being aware of all of this while you are applying for this one and making sure it's something that definitely fits, you know, the workload you can do. Well, I guess. Yeah. There's also some specific things that I mentioned. Preparing optimizing textures for texture packer. Like it seems like they use a lot of Unity in these projects. If I remember correctly, like you're mostly using like Unreal and stuff like that at your
I'm an Unreal boy. Yeah.
Artist's dream.
Oh my god, yeah, so nice. Love it. Love the engine. I've worked on other proprietary engines before as well, but yeah, I'm on Unreal now, and that is my go-to. So I hadn't even heard of Texture Packer before, but this is clearly a 2D suite software for sprite sheets.
Yeah, I've just taken a look at it, and again, I've just taken a quick Google myself at Texture Packer. Yeah, it seems to be about creating sprite sheets. Creating sprite sheets based off of individual images, which, you know, that seems like an interesting piece of software, and it seems like it's free as well. So,
it's very good as well for them to list that in the requirements to actually to showcase that this is a thing that they use in their workflow, and if you know it, then it's a big plus up.
And also Esoteric Spine as well. To take a look at that, and again, that is another package that's quite popular in Unity. That's like Spine 2D. I believe this one does also. It's got like a free trial which you can probably experiment around with and build up some projects with. So that's definitely something good to look in for. There are also some games. Like there's a really good one. I think it's I don't remember what it's called. It's called something like Smash Studio or something, which is a fighting game that's totally not Super Smash Brothers. Except it has like an entire 2D animation and like building your own custom characters is the entire whole like thing. And they've got some really interesting spine animation in that game.
Right. Okay.
So that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, rigging 2D skeletons and all that jazz. Yeah, making stuff for HTML and WebGL, which is handy if you're a 2D artist because WebGL games run really nicely on 2D games run quite nicely on WebGL. As someone who's pushed for WebGL previously. We don't talk about 3D though.
Yeah, we're working with low poly and producing textures for 3D stuff. Again, I guess that's why they have done the / general artist, like 2D / general artist at the top.
Yeah, there we are.
Purely because like the spine, like the rigging as well, that and animating characters, they're looking for a little bit of an animator, the texture artist, designer, all this kind of stuff. We're definitely in indie mode here, for sure.
Yeah, definitely a lot of indie stuff here. I could try and find like a more. I could try and find or if I suppose if we again look to like if we move into sort of the 3D side, we'll start probably seeing a lot of the companies that are a lot more, um, a lot more of those, what were they called? Yeah, sort of specialist kind of ones. If we move into 3D,
the AAA, yeah.
the triple A's, yeah. I say the triple A's, even though I know like Hello Games isn't triple A, but also like they do hire quite a lot, and I mean they get like funding and deals with like PlayStation and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think they can count at some point. But I think that would be interesting. Yeah, should we move on to 3D art actually?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What a smooth segue.
Yeah.
What a delightfully
You
smooth segue.
you shot yourself in the foot by asking, but yeah, I thought we were segueing. I thought you teed it up really well.
I teed it up perfectly and then I missed it
You
completely.
went back on it.
We love it. Oh, lovely junior artist role. Love a good junior artist role. Let's take a look at some of these established studios. Take a look at Hello Games' one. So they've also kept theirs quite
it's
nice
very
and simple.
concise. Yeah,
I think, yeah. So theirs is quite simple. To be that all-around artist, you know you are, turning your hands to many things from concepts from modeling character to environment. That's quite a sentence. Beautiful and impactful 3D art. Work collaboratively with the art team to maintain the art style and standards, working well with others, being self-directed and prioritizing workloads, driving quality and innovation within their games. And main things they're looking for just for juniors, just great grades from an
the first point in qualifications is funny. Just great grades from an art degree. Great grades
from an art degree.
Yep. It's definitely an artist company for sure. Great grades. I think that
2D and 3D work.
Yeah, 2D and 3D work. Okay.
And again, some of the same things: some Maya, Photoshop, ZBrush, Substance Designer, Substance Painter, and some provisions of using these or similar software.
Yeah, similar software. That's absolutely
love similar software.
That's fine. That is the full package of the 3D pipeline. I mean, to stick on the great grades from an art degree, I think is absolutely insane that they've put that there. I don't know. I've never seen that be like necessary for an art job requirement because, again, like with some of the more with some of the more technical disciplines out there, I can imagine this folds in quite a lot to what they're looking for to be at a certain level. But yeah, the games is not even artists, but the games industry is a very like portfolio based, industry where even if you've not went to university, did a degree and stuff, if you're very experienced, again, all these are free software out there to learn. If you've worked a lot on them and you've got a good portfolio for that, never stop yourself from applying to a company, even when they say this, because that's silly to put there. I think maybe I know there's some companies out there that just kind of work quite directly with universities and try to have a bit of more of like a pipeline from students to work. So maybe that's what they're specifically trying to target is students up and coming.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's junior
like
stuff.
I know Rebellion do like a technical art internship here, which is a little bit slightly beyond, but like looking at the technical art internship, their kind of requirements is a bit of a contrast. They want like a technical art portfolio, with personal education projects, and like the main sort of requirements are either in a university placement year, or you're a career switcher, or you're an aspiring technical artist with no or minimal game dev industry experience, which kind of seems to encompass that a little bit more.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so cool for companies to do this because like you kind of have to reach a certain level as a company to get to that standard, because at the end of the day, it's still like a team making a game, making a product. Like hiring students and training them up is definitely not something they need to be doing, but the fact they are is very cool.
Yeah, I think and I think one of the other important things that I want to sort of bring out from all of this, and even with like a lot of the roles we've sort of been seeing, there's we've not really commented on like different things like the years of commercial experience that some of these are sort of asking for.
I don't
seems
read
to be
that.
just this Yeah,
I don't read that. I just ignore that, and I'm like, okay, if
they're
this
just yeah.
company looks like it fits me, and I would really like to work for them, and I think my portfolio matches what they're doing, I will send in an application anyway.
Yeah.
That thing, maybe it's not appropriate for me to say, but again, I already said pirate stuff anyway. But a lot of those lines are put into job requirements purely to stop the amount of applicants. Because if they put in, it's like, oh, anyone can apply, everyone will apply. But if they put in a little thing that's like, oh, you need to have this, 2 years experience of things, that stops a lot of people from, obviously applying. But again, at the end of the day, it's important. The important thing is your skill level. And if you have your interview and you talk through it with them and they think you're a good fit, that's always an open door for that.
Mm, totally. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I was just sort of interested that, like, when you don't read into that bit and you're just looking at a lot of it, the 2D like art positions really feel like they can fit anywhere between like a junior and a mid-level, like anywhere between those kind of positions. And like, there doesn't seem to be that much outside of, just having a fine, refinement of your craft and that kind of thing. Not that much of, like a skills gap inherently between what kind of ones are specifically junior versus which ones are like mid-level. It feels, at least on like these application fronts. But, like, yeah, I was wondering, like, it's a little bit different because I only just noticed this one now. Do you mind if we
That's
actually
War
take a
Dog.
quick look at this one? Yeah,
Yeah,
this War
absolutely.
Dog
Yeah,
one,
friends of the
because
show.
yeah, friends of the friends of the show. It'd be interesting, yeah, to take a look
So yeah,
at some of the
as
requirements, something more
absolutely.
specialized.
So as I know, War Dog, I have it's one of their like absolutely key like morals is hiring juniors as well, because they are a co-dev studio that works so specifically on weapons, and they know that's quite a niche thing, so they want to build like a studio of like great artists that are all working on, can all do a fantastic job on this. So they
Yeah.
know that there needs to be a little bit of training to match their level of standards, so they're very open to hiring juniors and mid-levels just to get them on the board.
What's handy here is you can definitely, like, we can very handily directly compare what the difference between like junior weapons artists versus like mid-senior weapons artists, what they actually do. Like, and again, sort of keeping it down to just the requirements. um let's see, because again, this is the first time I've really taken a quick look at this. um yeah, I mean, similarity, it seems like a lot of the junior ones is, having basic understanding, but not expecting you to know absolutely everything. Whereas again, this mid-senior level, trying to notice any bullet points that are different, it's a bit hard playing spot the difference.
I will say, so this is actually a good example of you structuring your portfolio towards jobs as well, because War Dog are a weapons artist studio. They do not work on environments. They don't work on characters. If you're going to apply to this company without any examples of weapons, you're probably not going to have a great chance. Again, I'm not the hiring person here. Can't comment on that, but it's kind of, you do need to know a little bit of the who you're applying to, because I guess that's on the flip side of people just sending off applications to absolutely everyone, is companies always like it when you tailor it a bit to them. And not saying you tailor your entire portfolio, but like when it comes to your cover letter and things, you obviously talk a little bit about the studio and why it means so much for you to join them. But this is definitely one, again, your portfolio is a big example of this. So I definitely, I wouldn't apply to War Dog without having at least some weapon on your portfolio of a really high quality.
Yeah, that's yeah, absolutely. Oh, interesting little point there.
You go, yeah.
Just wanted to just point out, looking at the requirements, one of the main sort of differences, they specifically do point out, like, seniors should be able to offer at least one secondary skill beyond hard surface modeling. So
That's cool.
yeah, being able to juggle those multiple hats. Interesting.
I'm wondering if that, again, don't know, but wondering if that is purely because they are they're a well-oiled machine right now. And seniors obviously cost a lot more, so they need to bring something that can't be done by a mid-level. I'm wondering if that's where that comes from.
Eventually.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I will point out, I know we're getting close to the end of time here. But again, this is probably something that's been stated in every single one of these jobs boards highlights. But every job listing that we have went through today, and it's on this one as well, at the bottom of the junior one. Do you want to read that?
Good attitude, flexible, and eager to learn.
Yeah, I think a lot of things that are missed, especially when you're going through a university or any sort of like student program for these skills, is what's not talked about a lot is the soft skills of being a person and working well on a team. I actually had this conversation with my head yesterday. This came up yesterday, but it's such a true thing that's never really like properly communicated well. But like, you need to be able to you need to be basically nice and easy to work with and get along well. I say nice as you don't need to be nice, but I'm like, you need to be able to work well together in a team, because there's so many times what brought up in the example yesterday where a company would rather hire someone who's a good artist but really nice to get along with, that is kind of the options, where they would rather because you're joining a team, you're joining a studio, and you're joining, I hate the word family or whatever, but you are joining a team that you will work together for 35 to 40 hours, however long your shifts are, a week for the rest of your life until you quit or die. That is what you're signing up for. And people don't want to work with people who are unpleasant or rude or can't, basically can't work well in a team. I don't know why I can't say that, but yeah, it is such a key thing. And it's definitely, I do think that has helped me personally quite a lot, because I'm quite a friendly person, and it's something that I just enjoy like doing. Like when I see people on a Monday morning, I always ask them how the weekend was, and what they got up to and everything, because I like talking to them and making friends and keeping personable with people. And it's funny hearing stories from places I have to work where I no longer work there anymore, because I basically I think the first thing I said, I was like, oh, how's it going on at the studio without me? What's changed? And they basically all said it's become a lot more quiet without you there, because I'm not causing as much noise or ruckus or talking to people as much. I do think it's very important that people understand that a big part of that is who you are as a person, is one of the things you get hired for. Because that's what I said, where you talk about subjective things of people's portfolios, of like what makes someone attractive for a company. Another part of that is like, you can very well communicate who you are through your art or your online presence, or how you interact with people as well. It's definitely soft skills are such an important thing that are not really talked about enough, because why would they be? Like, the whole point is like, can you get the job done? Yes, if you can, fantastic. If you can't, then try again.
Obviously quite an introverted industry just in general. Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, as much as I'm not a big fan of those terms, purely because I was introverted as well. When I was in college, I hated talking to people. I absolutely hate. I have this weird thing where it's still ingrained in me that I show up late to a lot of things, purely because when I was younger, I hated showing up early and then having to fill that 10-minute gap. Maybe I showed up 10 minutes early. The 10-minute gap of talking to something, a really small talk. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Didn't want to do it. And it was something that I knew that I wanted to get better at. So I kind of forced myself into these uncomfortable scenarios, because it's like, the only way to get better at something is to be bad at it first. And you need to keep learning and learning. And it's the same with everything. It's the same with any skill. You need to be bad at it first. And it's just being like brave enough to push yourself in that direction and, learn, because learning is all challenge. It's all struggle. But you won't realize how like better you will be at it after a couple of years. Because I know, again, I didn't talk to talk to a lot of people during my education. I made a good couple of friends in college, made barely any in uni. COVID was my year at uni, so I was there for second year, then bam, third and fourth year, all working from home. Didn't really get to connect with a lot of people, and that's definitely what pushed me into doing events as well, because like I wanted to know my local industry and meet people that are, you know, colleagues and peers, but I never got that chance before. So yeah, soft skills, good stuff.
I think honestly that's a perfect place to leave it off, because usually at the end of this we do like a big roundup, like, you know, what kind of things can we learn. But that was a really lovely. That was honestly a really lovely little like conclusion, actually.
Also, be good at art as well.
Yeah, that as well.
And that also be good and nice.
Be good at it, and in terms of like the stuff that's on the job spec and application, you know, like just looking at those kind of things, and just looking at those kind of things, making sure portfolio is nice and tailored to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, quality over quantity. Good projects. Little of them. Don't do a lot. Do really good ones. Stay up to date with your portfolio. If a project is like a couple years old, it's probably best to try put a new one on there and like update it some way. Again, this is another personal thing where it gives me the fear when someone talks about a personal project I've been working on, and the amount of time they put into it has just dragged on. And it was like, I've got a friend in Edinburgh who's been working on his own game for 7 years. I've never done anything in my life for 7 years. I'm not doing that. I think you learn a lot more from doing shorter, smaller projects, because you get the full development cycle, you get the full process of making your character, environment, your prop work project, and then you get to start again with those new things you've learned. I think that's much more value than a lot of stuff or one big project. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Back to rambling.
Yeah. No, fantastic. And on that topic of small little projects, you want to work on a small little project, one that might be good for building up like your art portfolio, for example. We'll say in the next couple of weeks, doing our Game Parade Game Jam spring. It's quote unquote spring. So, you know, that's from the 12th of June to the 22nd of June. Like, please do join. That should be a really good time if you want to like build up some skills. You know, try to like build a new piece for some of your portfolios and make something, and then not have to sort of touch it after you've made it, but still have enough time to really do so. Yeah.
It's absolutely horrible timing, because we also have a jam coming as well next month. I know, yeah. Absolute disaster. But I mean, this is the best time to jam. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I don't know if your jam allows submissions as well for like overlapping submissions.
Could be, yeah.
If the timeline ends up working out, because you're really debt free to make the game whenever you want over our period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe you could go for double awards.
I think we're the week after, though. I'll think about that. I'll think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, Fergus, thank you so much for joining, and for having so many awesome and really interesting insights.
Thanks for having me.
Different jobs. Yeah, thank you so very much. And yeah, thank you everybody for watching. If you've stayed for now, if you're on the YouTube VOD and you're watching, like next week we'll be back for another live stream. And yeah, I think until then, wishing you all the best of luck. If you want to apply for the different jobs, you can go to gamesjobs.live. That'll be in the description. Good luck if you are applying. And yeah, with that, I think we'll see you next time. So yeah, have a nice day, everybody.
Bye. Oh, mate, we did that in sync. That's crazy.